Hey fellow duelists, it's RagingRaidRaptor here, coming at you today with a brand new edition of Deck Guide, the series where I discuss my opinions on what cards you should and can run in a deck without going over the fluff. Today's archetype will be Deskbots, an Earth attribute machine type deck with a control based strategy with a strong reliance on the battle phase, while also having the potential to OTK your opponent, as the Deskbot monsters can increase their attack points to sometimes ridiculous amounts. It can also utilize the pendulum mechanic without it being severely crippled by the new master rules, as they were not able to pendulum spam as easily as Draco Pals or Zark Pendulum Magicians were during pre-link summoning. Now that I've established all of that, I can talk about the staples you should run. Starting with the monster that will make summoning all of your main deck monsters except for itself, Deskbot 3. This card is incredibly important for the deck, as its first effect can special summon any Deskbot monster from your deck to the field when you have normal summoned it, which is excellent since some of the Deskbot monsters have trigger effects when they are summoned, and the bonus of being able to summon the high level Deskbot monsters without pendulum or tribute summoning is extremely useful. Its second effect is also very good, as it can increase its attack points by 500 for every Deskbot card on the field during either player's turn, including itself, which can help you make it easier to OTK your opponent. While on the topic of trigger effects, the next staple you should run is Deskbot 2. This card is fantastic, as its first effect can search any Deskbot card from your deck when it is special summoned, giving you an additional level of consistency, which is not limited to once per turn, meaning that you can use this effect more than once in a turn, which can be ridiculous in combination with cards such as Machine Duplication and Deskbot 4. Its second effect increases the attack and defense points of all machine type monsters you control, with the exception of the copy of Vats cards, which also helps you OTK your opponents, but can also potentially cause you some problems if you want to use Machine Duplication on another Deskbot monster while you control at least one copy of Deskbot 2 on the field, since Machine Duplication does need the monsters to have 500 or less attack points to use. However, this card is still incredibly important for the deck, and you should definitely run it. The next card is Deskbot 4. Although it does not have a trigger effect like Deskbot 2, it is still excellent within this archetype, as it can increase its attack points times 500 by the level of the Deskbot monster you send to the graveyard to use this effect during the damage calculation, which is not only good for easily getting over big boss monsters with high attack points, but can also be used for bluffing your opponent into using Honest if they misread the text of this card, since Honest's effect has to be used during the damage step, which comes before the damage calculation. However, this effect can also work against itself if your opponent uses a card like Mirror Force or Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, since those effects can get rid of Deskbot 4 before damage calculation. Also, you will not be able to use this effect if you can't send monsters to the graveyard because your opponent controls a copy of Darklaw, for example. However, this card is still incredibly important because of its second effect, which allows you to special summon 2 Deskbot monsters with different levels from either your hand or your graveyard, which is excellent since you will be able to use the effects of Deskbots 2, 5 and 6 if you summon either one of them, and can even chain their effects together if you were able to summon 2 of those monsters with 4's effect. It can also help you link summon, XZ summon, if you were able to summon another copy of a Deskbot monster that was already on the field, or even Synchro summon if you summon Deskbot 1 with 4's effect during the main phase 2. The only downside to this effect is that because it does not have the text up to, it means that it's absolutely necessary to summon 2 Deskbot monsters, which means that you will not be able to use this effect if you have one other Deskbot monster in your hand or graveyard, or do not have enough room to summon 2 monsters. Despite its problems, this card is still highly important for this deck because of the easy monster removal, special summoning and deck thinning that it provides. And because Deskbot 3 and 4 are so vital for this deck, I think you need to run the YuGiOh engine, which comprises of YuGiOh, YuGiOh Accelerator and Giant X to ensure that you get to them as soon as possible. The way this engine works is that you normal summon Ogre in order to search Accelerator, then special summon Accelerator in order to go into Giant X to search either Deskbot 3 or 4. However, if you have both these cards in your hand, then even better, as Ogre can search Deskbot 3 or 4 with its effect, giving you 2 free searches. However, there is a major downside to this engine, that being that you will be restricted to only summoning machine type monsters and will not be able to attack for the rest of the turn after you use YuGiOh's effect, which is extremely limiting since Deskbots need to be able to attack to get the most out of this deck, or if you want to summon a non-machine type monster. However, you can play around this by doing your normal plays during the main phase 1 and then using the effect of Augur during the main phase 2. However, you will not be able to search this monster, which is Deskbot 5. Although it is not as easy to summon as the other Deskbot monsters I've mentioned, I feel you should still run it as it can destroy a back row with its effect and is not limited to once per turn, and can be used to increase Deskbot 4's effect to 3000 points. Also, its second effect allows you to special summon a Deskbot monster from your graveyard when it is destroyed in a pendulum zone, and can allow for some interesting combos with Deskbot Jet, although it is highly unlikely that this will happen, and is limited to only being able to use this effect once per turn. Moving over to a Link monster, I suggest running Clifford Genius when it comes out in the TCG. I'm not going to go into too much detail as to why I think you should run this card, as I have already made a card discussion about it on my channel, but you run this card for the additional search effect, which will allow you to search copies of Deskbots 5 to 9, as well as the additional negation effect, while also being easily accessible for this deck, since it only needs 2 machine type monsters to summon it. And while on the topic of Link monsters, the next suggestion is Mrs. Radiant, as it is a Link 2 that can open up 2 extra monster zones on the field, which can easily be accessible by Earth attribute archetypes, which is really good if you were only able to summon a Deskbot 2 with the effect of Deskbot 3, especially since its effect allows you to add a Earth attribute monster from your graveyard when it's destroyed by either battle or card effects, which will force your opponent to think about if they want to waste a monster like Castell to get rid of it, or give you card advantage by destroying it, which is what I personally felt the deck really needed, as I pointed out in my Can Be Better video. However, the downside to this card is that although it can decrease the attack and defense points of all with attribute monsters by 400, it increases the attack and defense points of all Earth attribute monsters by 500, which can cause problems when you want to activate this card, Machine Duplication. This card is incredibly powerful in this deck, as it allows you to target a machine type monster with 500 or less attack points and then special summon up to 2 copies of that card from your deck, which potentially gives you 3 search effects with Deskbot 2 or 3 back row pops with Deskbot 5 if you summon either one of them with Deskbot 3 and then use Machine Duplication. I mean, how brilliant is that? And because it has the text saying up to 2 monsters from your deck with the same name as that monster, means that you can still use it to summon one copy of that monster from your deck if the other one has already been summoned or is in your hand. Well, that is the end of part 1 of my Deskbot deck guide. Check into part 2 where I will be discussing the tech cards that you can potentially run. If you did enjoy this video, why not give it a like or share it with your friends? It would be greatly appreciated and would help the channel as a whole. I've been RagingRaidRaptor and I'll see you all again next time.